Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships and our Saturday edition video where we'll be doing an upgrade and commander build on the Tier 10 British Tech Tree Destroyer, the Daring. So, as traditional, we'll do a brief overview before we start talking about the modules, upgrades, consumables, and getting to the commander. So, in looking at the Daring, what type of destroyer is Daring? Where there are three types of destroyers. You have torpedo boats, you have gunboats, and you have hybrid destroyers. Daring is the hybrid destroyer. She's a mix of both a torpedo destroyer and a gunboat destroyer. She has some really impressive guns, these 113mm guns, 3 turrets, 6 guns, and really impressive quintuple turrets, torpedo racks. So she gets 2 of them, so she can launch up to 10 torpedoes and can single launch them. So that's, to me, is a real great strength of the Daring. Armor layout, it's just the same as most Tier 10 destroyers, although that is changes a little bit depending on what nation and the premium destroyers like Ragnar or Elbing. But it's the typical 19mm, 13mm superstructure, and then, guns are easy to knock out. So, in going into the modules, it's Tier 10, that you don't have any, at least for the Daring, to upgrade beyond. So, with the build we have, we're getting our reload time down to 2.3 seconds. I think stock it's 2.6. 180 degree turn time, 8.3 seconds. And I believe these turrets are 360 degree turning radius. Yes, that is true. I was just trying to remember from yesterday. So that really helps when you have to turn and kite away. Going into the hull A, 24,300 hit points, and that is with Survivability Expert on our commander. Armor, the 620mm, main turrets, 3, so on and so forth. This really isn't the strongest of AA destroyers, and we might briefly talk about our AA, but you don't take Daring to shoot down planes. It's just not how Daring works. So these are the torpedoes. You get these 533mm Mark IXM torpedoes. And these are the same torpedoes that you find on the Minotaur. So they got a reload time of 125 seconds, 10 kilometer range, 16,767 maximum damage, and 62 knots on the torpedo speed. There are other destroyers have better speed on their torpedoes than Daring, but again, a strength of Daring is when you can single launch the torpedoes. Gun range, we have 12.8 kilometers. Really nice. And propulsion, maximum speed of 35 knots. She's not among the fastest destroyers by any means, Tier 10 in World of Warships. She's more mid to being one of the slower ones because you don't have access to an engine boost or anything. I think stock, it's like 35 knots, but you throw a Zero Mike flag on, I think you're breaking over 36 knots. Going into the upgrades, so being Tier 10, we have 6 slots. So for the first slot, I'd recommend taking the main armaments modification 1 because it increases survivability and accelerates repairs of the main battery and torpedo tubes. Your risk of your main battery and torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated is reduced by -20%. Your survivability goes up by +50%, and your repair time on the main battery and torpedo tubes, if they should be incapacitated, is reduced by -20%. So that means they're coming back online faster. You don't have secondaries. Your AA's crap. You don't really take this just to be an AA destroyer at Tier 10. There's other destroyers that do a much better job at it. And you don't need to take magazine modification. Risk of your ship's magazine detonating reduced by -70%, because as you all know, if you've been around on the channel long enough, you take the Juliet Charlie combat signal, which completely eliminates risk of your ship's magazine detonating if you're random ranked clan battles, something of that sort. I won't mount those in co-op. Slot 2, you have 3 options. If you can only afford, because this is a coal purchase, but if you can only afford between these 2 starting off, you don't have enough coal or something, you want to take engine room protection because it reduces the risk of incapacitation and accelerates repairs of the engines and steering gears. But because you get hydroacoustic search on the Daring, and when you make a build out of the commander for it, you can make the hydroacoustic search modification 1 and hydroacoustic search in general last much longer. So the action time just with this module alone goes up by plus 20%, or upgrade, I should say. So if you're wondering where you purchased that, there's an option you can click on, and it'll take you to the armory. So for example, here, I can just click on this one, but you would not be taking this for a destroyer. But it's just an example. You'd be able to click on the hydroacoustic search modification, and it would show up here in upgrades. And here you can see hydroacoustic search modification 1. 17,000 coal, but you use a coupon, 12,750 coal. You can see coupons here. So it's good till February 6th. So I recommend doing this on the Daring. Any British destroyer that you have hydroacoustic search on, this is really helpful using the coupon because you save coal. So I always burn this coupon once a month. For the slot 3, you have main battery modification 2. Increases your traverse speed of the main turrets. Your destroyer turrets already turn really quickly. You don't need that. Again, you're not an AA destroyer. Don't even bother. I recommend taking the aiming systems modification 1 because it increases the firing accuracy of your main battery, and it also accelerates the traverse speed of the torpedo tubes. And so really it's that maximum main battery shell dispersion what you're going for. It reduces it by -7%. So that means you're getting tighter groupings with your main battery. Because you're a hybrid destroyer, to me, most hybrid destroyers, I like investing in the guns over the torpedoes. Not that the torpedoes should be ignored, but you know that's where you're going to get a lot of good damage out of in a game. So the traverse speed of the torpedo tubes goes up by a plus 20%, and you don't have a secondary battery on this destroyer, so there's no need to talk about that. Then you get to the torpedo tubes modification 1. This would buff your torpedo speed from that 62 knots to, I don't know, would it be like 64, 65 knots, something like that. And the traverse speed is improved, and the risk of the torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated, -40%. Again, I would recommend going more for the gun upgrade here versus the torpedo upgrade here. And that is my personal opinion. I'm not sure that I know of other players who take this, at least any of the ones that I know with Daring, because, you know, if you're doing something you want to do a little more torpedo build-wise, you know, instantly Shimakaze comes to mind. Like, right, I run this on Shimakaze. But on Daring, your guns are they're pretty good. I would recommend this. Smoke generator modification 1, nah. It just increases your action time, so instead of it being, 10 seconds, it would go to like 13. Yeah, it's just short smoke. There's no need to take that here on the Daring, so one of these two, recommend this one first. Then for slot 4, you may notice that other destroyers you get the option of the propulsion modification 1. The British destroyers already have like a built-in propulsion to accelerate quickly. You may notice that. So like when I take Daring versus like gearing, like I notice I got a little more pep in my step when I put my foot on the pedal, as an example, versus Daring or versus gearing. Sorry. So then what you really want to go for is the steering gears modification 1. You want to get that rudder shift time down to 3.7 seconds. So if you're kind of open gunboating, you're trying to dodge shells, like you saw in yesterday's video, I'll link it at the end of this video. There's a couple of destroyers we get in a fight with, and then even a Salem, because when the farther away you are, when you're opening up with your guns, it's easier to kind of dodge those salvos when you're shifting your rudder and you're changing your speed. This is more cruiser battleship, and I've never seen this on a destroyer. Depth charges modification 1. You get 2 more depth charges, and submarines are out for patch 11.0 and 11.1, I believe. Very happy about that, as they're still trying to figure out how submarines work in World of Warships. That's a video for another time. But bang for buck, steering gears modification 1 is just really good with the rudder shift and enhanced time. Slot 5, you get several options here. You get concealment system or torpedo lookout system. This increases the assured acquisition range of torpedoes, but you already have a hydroacoustic search, so there's really no need to take this. you get a lot of money out of taking the concealment system modification 1, because with the camouflage I have on right now, it gets us down to 6 kilometers and 2.8 by air. And then another thing that it does is the dispersion of shells fired by enemies attacking your ship is increased. So they have a even slightly harder time landing shells on you. So that's kind of the bonus there. You have steering gears modification 2. Your rudder shift time gets further decreased, and your steering gears repair time come back online sooner. But you're forsaking concealment, so I still choose consumer over steering gears modification 2. And then you have the ship consumables modification 1, and this enhances your action time of your consumables by 10%. You could do this, but to me, really, I would take steering gears over this. This I could see more like on a cruiser, but for me, it's still concealment system modification 1. Now you get access to the unique, also known as like a legendary upgrade for the Daring. And this is kind of spicy because it improves the ship's torpedo armament capabilities. So your torpedo damage is plus 15%, and your torpedo reload time is reduced by negative 10%. So the torpedo reload time right now, now keep in mind, I don't have a torpedo build going on this. It's 125 seconds, okay? So if you were to take 12.5 seconds off, that'd be 10%. You're getting down to 112.5. So just like 50 a minute, 52. You know, then there's still some other upgrades you could take to reduce the reload time. But this is in the armory, and if you do not see this in your armory, I'll explain that here in just a moment. But it is a part of the research bureau. So this is going to take 19,200 research points to purchase. You can see I have 9,804. You have to have at least either 5 tier 10 ships in the game, and then, or you could be earning research bureau points like through a dockyard, and then you gain access to the research bureau. Is from my understanding, unless Wargaming has changed that. So that is how you get access to this, and then you, if you want to get more of these points, you get some in combat missions. As an example, sometimes they're made available in a dockyard. Other times you basically would be, the main way of getting them is regrinding a line. So you hit reset, and then that's how you earn research bureau points, and it gives you points along the way. Not going to go into that. I have a video on all that. That's a different topic for a different time. But the kind of big thing with that is the heavier torpedo warheads. You're getting plus 15% damage. So the damage right now on the torpedoes is 16,767. Okay, so we'll do math real quick. Oh, and I've already done the math wrong. Times 15. So you're adding 2,500 damage essentially, and that is good. That's definitely a good thing. And then I add it back up to a grand total. You're looking at, was it 19,282? I think it would be. So it gets you somewhat closer to maybe what Shimakaze, but that again, you have to take into consideration the torpedo belt reductions that like cruisers and battleships get, or some cruisers don't get. But your torpedoes are that much more effective, but you're forsaking concealment. So I'm not seeing a YouTube video discussing this legendary upgrade, unique upgrade. So if you have this on Daring and you're watching this video, please let me know in the comments your experience with it. I and others would likely be interested to know what your experience has been with this upgrade. I can't talk about much because I don't have it, and I've not ever seen it in action. For slot 6, you have main battery modification 3. This is what I run. It reduces your reload time. That's what gets us to that 2.3 second reload time on the main battery, not taking adrenaline rush into account. But you get a slight nerf to your main battery traverse speed, but it's not a deal breaker. This would be where you could even further increase your torpedo to reload time. So like, let's say for example, if this is a good choice. I'm assuming someone has at least ran this. You know, your torpedo tube reload time, negative 10% there. You run this, negative 15%. So you're continuing to reduce the reload time. So then maybe you get a little bit more money's worth out of your torpedoes. But the problem is that these torpedoes, in my mind, are 10 kilometers, and then your concealment's going to be around 7. So you're really not that stealthy of a torpedo boat, or you could be something like Shimakaze. You're underneath 6 kilometer detectability and 3 different option of torpedoes. So I would lean more towards looking at Shimakaze for at a tier 10 DD torpedo type build destroyer. So I still lean more towards taking the guns over the torpedoes. That doesn't mean torpedoes are bad. I have not personally tested out, and on paper when I'm looking at things, it just doesn't make sense in my mind. You can also extend the main battery firing range. Right now we have the 12.8, which is pretty nice. If you start being endearing and you're backing off 13, 14 kilometers, then why are you in a destroyer? Like, why not take L-beam? Why not take a cruiser at that point? Because if you're as a destroyer and you have that long range, it encourages more as a DD player to play like back with your cruisers, maybe even behind your battleships. And that's not really, to me, how you play destroyers. You want to be that frontline spotting, screening DD player. Auxiliary armaments modification 2. Again, I don't see any benefit of taking this since you have poor AA and you don't get any secondary battery. So this to me is still number 1 when it comes to the option for the 6th slot on the upgrades. So this is what I'd run. Consumable wise, you have your standard damage control party on a destroyer. You have a short action time and a quick reload time, so 40 seconds, and unlimited charges. And then you get these infamous short burst smoke generator. And what's fun about these is that the action time is only 10 seconds. So when you pop it, you got to basically start slowing down or you might drift out. And then the dispersion time is short. It's only 40 seconds. But the reload time is 70 seconds. So if you get a full use of your smoke screen, you're going to have your next smoke screen in 30 seconds after your current screen smoke screen dissipates. So you can often be going dark again really quickly if you have enemy ships maybe pushing in on you, or you're on a map like Ocean and you can't shoot behind an island or something like that. So these smoke screens are really good because they always constantly help you set the terms of battle when you're engaging with any destroyers, depending on whether they're not like a destroyer has a long-range hydroacoustic search or radar. And then you get the short-range hydroacoustic search. So kind of the trade-off with these is they only detect torpedoes and ships up to 3 kilometers away, but their action time is longer than a standard hydroacoustic search. So here with the build I have so far, you can see we're at 216 seconds of action consumable time. It's really good. Reload time is 120 seconds. So trying to do the math in my head, it's over 3 minutes. It's, 240 would be 4 minutes. And we're not quite there to almost 4 minutes. But we're at 216 seconds. So it's really nice. And you could see in yesterday's video, I was making good use of it. And then on the Daring, you get the heal. So this is kind of I would call it the ace up the sleeve. I was playing with a clanmate last night, and he's like, hey, I got that Daring really low on health. He unfortunately lost engagement to an enemy Daring. I was like, oh yeah, but Daring's got a heal, so he's probably going to be healing some back of that damage. And when we caught him again, instead of him being low health, he was half health. So that's the trick. Sometimes players are like, oh, that Daring's almost dead. I'm just going to charge in and kill him. And when you think he only had like 2,000 health, he's healed back almost 6,000 health, and he's 8, so then 8,000, right? And then it's like, oh, I wouldn't have done that if I would have known. But standard-wise, if you don't take a certain commander skill, you'd only get 6, 3, and 2. I think that's how it works. We'll check it out. So let's go ahead and look at the commander build. So we have the Cap, and he does not talk coherent anything. It's just a lot of rawr. That's how I'll phrase it. But when we're looking at the commander, we'll talk about the 10-point bread and butter build. of 97% of destroyers. I'm always saying 95, 99%, which is basically taking preventive maintenance, reduces risk of main turrets, torpedo tubes, steering gears, and engine from becoming incapacitated. As 3-point commander, you take a last stand. If your steering gears or your engine become incapacitated, what last stand does is it keeps you operable, so you're not just a sitting duck in the water or just looking stupid making circles in the water. Last stand keeps those two things. I'm trying to think what the word is. Keeps the engine, keeps the steering gears working, but at a penalty. It's only partially able to work. So it's not like you can still go full speed. It's not like the rudder shift is that good old, 3.7 seconds. That you're penalized, but you're not a sitting duck. 6-point survivability expert. Defense skill increases your health pool for each ship tier by plus 350. So that what gets us up to that 24,300. And then for 10-point commander, concealment expert. After this, what would I recommend? So we got 10-point commander going here. I'm trying to think what I did. I think I went with Adrenaline Rush next because it enhances the ship's parameter for each 1% of HP lost. So basically that means your main battery is reloading quicker, your torpedo tube reload time is quicker, your continuous AA damage gets a buff. So this is helpful. As the more health you lose, you're a little bit more aggressive, so that means you're getting a 2.3 second reload time that I have right now on the main battery, down to like 2.2, 2.1 second. So you're just even that much more vicious as your health goes down, and your torpedoes are reloading quicker because Daring has a rather long reload time with the build I have right now. After that, a 13-point build, I mean, you could go for Superintendent, or you could go for main battery and AA specialist. I would recommend going Superintendent. This gives you an additional charge for each of your consumables. So that takes you from 6 to 7 smoke screens, 3 to 4 hydroacoustic searches, and 2 to 3 heals. Now, the main reason I like taking this is for the heals, in particular, because I have had a number of games where I have used every single heal in Daring. It keeps you in the fight longer, and it's nice just to be able to heal back that damage from having maybe multiple DD engagements and destroyer engagements. But it's also nice to have that 4th hydroacoustic search. Usually, the only way you get that 4th hydroacoustic search off is that it'd be the very end of the battle. Because they're so long lasting and they have that 2-minute reload time. So I like to try to pop mine. What I'll look at the timer, and let's say we are, you have 20 minutes in the battle, and let's say you get down to 18 minutes, you're in the cap. Most destroyers at that point already have their torpedoes are loaded, and then I go ahead and pop it. And you can see example of that in yesterday's battle video, which will be linked at the end of this video. And then you get, instead of 6, you get 7 smoke screens. So I have also had a battle or two where I burned through all of my smoke screens. The fighting has been vicious. The battle has been really good. And I've just been forced to have to use a lot of smoke screens when islands or friendly smoke screens are optional for me. The power with having the hydroacoustic search and the smoke is that you can confidently sit in your smoke screen and detect torpedoes incoming. Now, if there's like Holland torpedoes, which are really fast, then it's harder to have enough reaction time. So then if there's a Holland or a DD that has fast torpedoes around, kind of angle, you don't sit broadside in smoke to the direction of where that enemy destroyer might be. So that's what I do for a 16-point build. And then for a 19-point build, I would come over here and get the main battery AA specialist. This is what gets that reload time down to the right now 2.3 seconds. And you do get a little buff out of your AA with this skill. So, I mean, something's better than nothing, but the main battery is what you're primarily going for. So it's nice to have that little additional buff to your AA defense. So here you can see what the serious damage looks like. Damage by shell explosions. Kind of wondering what the... see, hit probability. 100%. 89 by medium range. Okay. So yeah. So that's what I recommend. It's 19-point commander. And then what I'm going to do as a 21-point commander is I'm going to be taking the consumable enhancements. So I'm mainly taking this for the hydroacoustic search, although it also helps with the smoke screens. So your hydroacoustic search consumable action time goes up to that plus 10%. Then that gets your action time of your hydroacoustic search from the 216 seconds to, I believe it's 236 seconds. So you're almost rocking 4 minutes at that point. And that has been super helpful to me in a lot of battles. So that's what I'm going for. And then your smoke generator consumable action time plus 10%. So instead of having a 10-second action time on your smoke, you get an 11-second action time on your smoke. So it's more of a utility build is what I'm going for. Utility, I'm equipping myself to my play style is that I'm often alive in the last half of the battle. That's kind of what this build reflects. Destroyer players who, if you die constantly the first half of the battle, then you're not going to get a lot of benefit out of the superintendent. You're not going to get a lot of benefit out of the consumable enhancements. A patient destroyer player is one who will get the most rewards and satisfaction, in my opinion. Just my opinion. Other build options you could do. I know some people, they don't take the superintendent because they don't feel like maybe getting a third heal is worth it, and they don't really care so much about having another hydroacoustic search and smoke. So they give that up, and what they'll do is they'll take the radio location. So I think this is a very common build for the daring, taking RPF on. So they kind of embracing more that DD hunter role, and being able to know where they are at all times. So I've seen players take this, they give up superintendent, and that would mean you have, would that be 1 point left? Yeah. And then you could take something like incoming fire alert, a warning about a salvo fighter ship from a distance of more than 4.5 kilometers away. So it gives you some awareness. As you can see, I'm not running priority target. I've kind of traded myself with the British shoreline to not use priority target, and just being aware of what's happening around my surroundings and using the default right mouse key where it's a free look and it zooms out from maybe where you're aiming to see what's happening around me if I need to dodge any incoming shells and such. So that would be another build option. I really don't see the point in going for main battery AA expert. It extends your firing range, get more damage with your AA. But again, you have pretty decent main battery firing range. It's longer than Gearing's. Gearing's is like 11.1, I think. So you're already outdoing the Gearing when it comes to terms of your main battery firing range with these 2.3 second build reload guns. So I think your points are better spent elsewhere. And then if you were going to do more of the torpedo build option, then I would say you could give up main battery and AA specialist, fill the tubes, faster, even another 10% shaved off your torpedo reload time, and then Swift Fish, that increases your torpedo speed. Or if you have that unique upgrade and you want to cause even more damage, or increase your chances of causing flooding, plus 30%, you can take a liquidator as an example. Or if you want to keep this, you could give up superintendent. If you feel like you're going to be more stealthy, I don't feel like you'll be taking as much damage. Drop that, keep this, and then take these two. So, number 1 recommendation. Number 2 recommendation, take RPF. Drop superintendent and take incoming fire alert. And then you have torpedo build, these two guys, and either drop superintendent or take main battery AA specialist. That's the 3 builds I see with daring that I could recommend. But I like using my guns, so that's why I lean more towards a little bit more of a gun investment and a utility investment with the consumables. So real quick, but I don't take the other skills. We'll do it quickly. No, don't need that. We've talked about that skill. Your gun's already reloaded really quickly. Don't need to take that. Talked about incoming fire alert. Demolition expert, chances of causing fires with your HE shell damage. Nah, like you can do better with your 2 points being, you know, there, or here on priority target. Talked about these two. Extra heavy ammunition, main battery AP shell damage, depth charge damage. I think this is something more like you would see on the tier 10 German destroyer, the L-Bing. It gave you more damage because the L-Bing does really good in destroying light cruisers. Priority target, yeah, this could be maybe a fourth build option. Let's say you really rely on priority targets, knowing if there are ships firing on you, how many are targeting you. Then I could say, yeah, this is a fourth build option. Give up consumable enhancements, and you're not going for any of the torpedo skills. We don't need to take IFHE. You're not crossing any important thresholds in armor penetration in taking the skill, and it reduces your chance of causing a fire. Right now, chances of causing a fire are 8% without taking any combat signals. Talked about that skill, Brisk, or I think it's called Brisk for battleships. Maybe it's not, or they changed it to Swift and Silence. It's hard to keep up with all the commander changes of 2021. This would be better for like Shimakaze when you have like an engine boost. You don't get an engine boost on Daring, so I don't see the use of this. We talked about radio location. You have Fearless Brawler. Main battery reload time. It can be activated after your ship has been detected by the enemy. I see this skill more on DD gunboats. Dazzle, not worth it. Dispersion of shells fired by enemies attacking your ship, plus 20%. Okay, now this only works after your ship has been detected for 15 seconds. So the first 15 seconds, you have this Dazzle buff. I talked at it more in length in my gearing upgrade commander build video. Little White Mouse has talked about this skill, and I hardly see any difference with Dazzle, because a lot of it just feels RNG based. So you're better off investing your 4 points in something much more like Consuma Expert or Radio Location. But that is the build I'm going to recommend as we want to draw this video to a close. So if you liked today's video going over the Daring, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you run on your Daring in the comments. And if one of you has that unique upgrade of the 5th slot from the Research Bureau, or used to be, I think, a combat mission, you could achieve those. Let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested to know if you find that works quite well on the Daring, as I believe others would as well. So until next time, take care.